Assassin's Creed is a huge franchise, spanning across 13 mainline entries, if I'm not mistaken. But with a franchise this big, there's bound to be a lot of games that fly under the radar. But today I want to talk about the most underrated Assassin's Creed game to release with or as a mainline entry. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Assassin's Creed Freedom Cry. Originally, in 2013, Freedom Cry was an expansion DLC for Black Flag, titled Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag Freedom Cry. In 2014, being the folks that Ubisoft are, they decided to release Freedom Cry as a standalone game, therefore the title Assassin's Creed Freedom Cry. I have so many feelings towards this game, so let's talk. Freedom Cry is set mostly in the small city of Port-au-Prince and a small segment of Black Flag's map. But like Black Flag, you can head to other neighboring islands and do tasks there. This game has a much deeper story, although the plot for me is a little weak. The gameplay is very much the same as Black Flag, with a few new additions, like every DLC should. You take the role of Adewale, who I believe was in Black Flag as well. Sorry, I pretty much gave up on the Assassin's Creed series after AC3, and I played a bit of Black Flag at a friend's house, so forgive me. Adewale is a decent character in this game, but we'll elaborate on that in a bit. Freedom Cry has a deep, meaningful, and powerful story and concept. In a nutshell, it's about slavery, but when you dig a little deeper, it's more than just slavery and fighting for freedom. It can be emotional too, and in a way, it could possibly be one of the best stories in the series. But the biggest thing that brings the plot down for me is the characters. Like I said, Adewale was a decent character. He's a fleshed out character, we know his motivations and where he's coming from. But I just wasn't feeling his character. He isn't as entertaining as Ezio, Edward, or even Desmond Miles. The other characters aren't as fleshed out though. In fact, everybody else is pretty much underwhelming. Bastian is underdeveloped. The other guy who we save, who interacts with Adewale, is underdeveloped and also forgettable. Now some of you might say that the characters aren't as important as the story and plot is. But if you're like me, the characters and the narrative are what make up the plot. The characters for me are what make a story memorable. Look at Watch Dogs 2. Do you even remember the plot precisely? A majority might say no, I don't, and I'm one of them. It's because the characters were what made the story have its memorable moments. The characters were entertaining and pretty much stole the show. They were the story. Let's take another example. Infamous 2. Infamous 2 for me had the more memorable story, because of the characters. Cole had a personality which made him more likable and developed. Zeke is the wisecracking comical relief, but can get serious when he has to, and is still trying to live up to his mistakes from the previous game. That's something that I feel Freedom Cry's story suffers from, and I know DLCs don't have the longest expansions in terms of story or side content, but the writers could have easily added more fleshed out characters and memorable characters. Heck, I don't even remember the main antagonist because he is barely even seen in the game's story and plot. That pretty much sums up my thoughts of the story. Now let's move on to the map design. Freedom Cry doesn't have the biggest map in the series, and there's a good reason for that. But there are still other small islands to be explored across the coast of Haiti. But even for an expansion DLC, Freedom Cry's map is kind of disappointing. One thing that was nice about the previous games after the first Assassin's Creed was the compelling open world. That was fun to explore and traverse. Port-au-Prince is a pretty boring city along with neighboring islands and plantations. There really isn't much to see on the map besides some things that return from Black Flag, like hunting whales and the like, which makes traversing the map that much boring in both the land and ocean department. This brings me to the side content. What's nice is that you can replay story missions like in previous games and 100% synchronize them by completing optional objectives you might have missed, which I found quite fun to be honest. As for side missions, Freedom Cry doesn't have any proper side quests. Instead, there are these endless side missions or encounter missions, which range from helping a runaway slave, saving slaves from an auction, liberating plantations, etc. These are short little side objectives in the open world. Doing any of these results in you being able to liberate slaves and recruit Maroons to fight for you. When going out in the ocean, you can also go kill some whales and sharks, like in Black Flag. You can go scuba diving as well. There isn't much to these, but at least they're not only in Black Flag. There isn't a large variety of side activities to do, which can result in them just being repetitive and tedious if you're trying to get a certain amount of Maroons and slaves. I was hoping there'd be at least 4 or 5 proper side quests to expand on the lore a little bit, and give you some more meaningful things to do, but you won't find that here. The way the game plays is very similar. Stealth is the same, combat is the same, ship battles are the same, and the traversal is pretty much the same. Black Flag already had some good gameplay in its hands. Although things differ when it comes to Adewale's arsenal. While Edward had double flintlock pistols, Adewale has a freaking blunderbuss. There's nothing as satisfying as seeing a group of 4 to 5 enemies and blasting them all in one shot. It's nuts. Now I'm not too sure if these 2 items were in Black Flag as well, but the shooting darts and rope darts. Shooting darts come in sleeping darts and a kind of ballistic dart that poisons the enemy and turns them against other enemies. This is awesome for stealth and takes out a decent number of enemies, especially when liberating plantations. As for rope darts, oh my god, I love these things. When you're just messing around in the sandbox, pulling and then hanging a couple of guards is just fun and entertaining. The aftermath is just cool, sometimes spooky. One subtle thing I find a little bit unfortunate is not being able to walk outside of the Animus, like in Black Flag. Although it wasn't that big of a deal in that game, it would have been nice to have it here. This game has some really good missions, and that's thanks to the way they're designed. There are missions that are linear, but there are also some missions that are a lot more open and feel like good quality side quests. Our favorite mission has to be where you climb aboard a slave ship. You have to save and break out the slaves as the ship sinks. It's a cool sequence, and the main reason why it's probably my favorite is because it's one of the only missions to include serious platforming segments. But the sequence itself is just so good. As close to the end as you swimming out underwater, as corpses litter your path and the music is gone, as you just hear silence and water. But you try to make it out in time. It's the best mission in the game by far. Another good and memorable mission sees you blending in as a slave to a mansion. A few hours later, you sneak through guards as you eavesdrop on the enemy's plans and escape. This mission is also good because you stripped off all your gear. It's only your fist as weapons and your parkour skills to do the main job. The final mission is also cool because you find your way into the mansion and soon chasing down the antagonist. But when you're fighting him, you can choose to either assassinate him with your weapons or take his weapon and kill him with it. There are some really good missions in this game, but of course the only downside to this being only an expansion is that you have not a lot of missions. Assassin's Creed Freedom Cry's main campaign took me around 4 hours to complete, but for me these missions are what kept me playing the story. By far some of my favorite story missions in the Assassin's Creed series alongside Assassin's Creed 2 and Brotherhood. I'm barely gonna talk about the progression as it's pretty much the same as Black Flag. The game has you upgrading and customizing your ship, the Experto Crede, and as well as unlocking new weapons. Some weapons are hidden in the world or require a certain synchronization percentage to unlock. That's pretty much it. In terms of visuals, don't expect much change like graphical overhauls, slight tweaks in lighting or any of that bunch. But what needs to be said is that this game still looks good in terms of its art style and art direction. It still holds up. The colors, lighting, character design is all pretty good. The blueness of the ocean, the tropical green trees, the warm but pale sand, the natural but warm lighting. It's a good looking game to this day, even with Valhalla being out for a few months. When I finished playing Assassin's Creed Freedom Cry, I initially was quite disappointed that there wasn't much to this game, and thought to myself, this shouldn't have been made a standalone DLC. But analyzing this game and replaying all of its content, I realized this is pretty okay for a standalone game that was a DLC. I mean, it's more than what Infamous First Light and Festival of Blood had to offer. Although the plot and characters were a little weak, the overall concept is deep and some of the best in the series yet. The gameplay and visuals still hold up, especially for an Assassin's Creed game, with the series going with a different direction, turning into a fully fledged RPG. Should you buy Assassin's Creed Freedom Cry as a standalone? Originally, I would have said buy both Black Flag and Freedom Cry in one package or bundle. Freedom Cry isn't worth it as a standalone. But now I say, maybe. If you don't have much time on your hands and want a short enough Assassin's Creed game, go ahead, it's worth the time. But if you're looking for a DLC with a lot of new content or fully fledged Assassin's Creed game with a slightly shorter runtime, get it when it's at a pretty good price. It'll feel way more worth the purchase.
It is done. He suffered badly, I made sure of it.
Have you come to say goodbye?
For now. But not without giving you this.
Oh.
After all this time, you lost interest.
You're not worried it will fall into Templar's hands?
I fear worse things now. No Templar plot can equal your wrath.
You tried to make light at a time like this?
Only to lighten my sorrow at leaving.
You will return to your Brotherhood of Assassins, and whatever duty they assign you.
I will return, yes. But I feel a tide changing within me. I'm no longer young. I must devote my energy to those who struggle for freedom. I will use my conviction and my creed to defend them alongside anyone who will help me.
I have no one left to serve this to. I will keep it for memory.
ACJC here, and I just want to thank you for watching this video essay that I've been thinking of doing for the last 4 or so months. I honestly at first, when thinking about a video essay for this game, I was absolutely stumped on what to write. But after finishing the scripts, I read through it, and I thought this has to be one of the best scripts I've written for a video. Therefore, I was super excited to get this video out. Otherwise, I have nothing else to really say. I recently started up a second channel, which I'll put a link in the description if I remember. I started that channel for non-gaming content such as vlogs and especially music. Reason being, I don't want all that secondary stuff to interfere with my main content, these video essays. Otherwise, that's pretty much it for me. If you enjoyed, a like would be appreciated. If you want to see more video essays like these, you are welcome to subscribe. It isn't required, but is very much appreciated. Comment down below what game I should tackle next. And stay safe, stay entertained, take care, take it easy. Bye.